Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Mindset You. We got Jason here, that's me. We got Rancis and we got King Mo at the bottom. Today's episode, all about self-awareness and my hatred for cyclists. I don't like them. They don't need to be on the road. Just kidding, kind of. Anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, find us on anywhere you can find podcasts, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube Music. Enjoy.
One thing, though, that I have been kind of running into over and over is a sense of judgment and awareness. So I'll explain a little bit more. I was at a restaurant the other day, and I was noticing, like, the cyclists that go up and down.
Yeah.
What you call it? And it's like a little cafe restaurant, and the cyclists are in there, and they're just like a little gang and taking up all the space, and then they go to the counter, and they're like people trying to walk around them. The waitress is trying to get around them, and it just seemed like not aware at all.
Yeah.
And like my initial reaction to that is like judgment. Is like, yo, how could you be so unaware? And then my next reaction was like, shit, man, that must be such a like blissful life. Like not be unaware, not be aware of everyone else, like what they're struggling with and how you're affecting them. It's just like, hey, I'm having a great time. I don't care. Like,
no, I get it. Yeah, I personally have a vendetta against cyclists. As somebody who's skated in the city for a long time, like cyclists are the biggest pain in the asses in the fucking world. Where they're like, it's a bike lane. I'm like, shut up, you're in spandex, leave me alone. So I mean I respect them. I think it's pretty badass. You can ride for fucking 1,000 miles or whatever it is, but I do not like them. I don't like them, and the more you wear spandex, the more I fucking dislike you. And the judgment's there. They're pieces of shit to me. I think if you're a cyclist, Mo's gonna become a piece of shit. Mo's gonna become a piece of shit, and I'm gonna have to love him regardless. It's gonna test our relationship. And it's gonna be the Jets and the Sharks. And if I say I'm gonna start smack, if you hear me snapping, I'm coming for you. Yeah, I just don't like them. I really don't.
Okay, so with that dark turn, let's explore that.
Always just had bad experiences with cyclists. I guess from dealing in the city, yeah.
But that's my question in terms of like bringing it to awareness. Like, what makes the experience bad? Like,
I'm trying to think of the way of saying this without sounding racist. They're like really annoying white girls.
You already hit the racist.
Yeah, that's fine. Fuck it, we're here. They're like really, they come off, at least the cyclists that I've dealt with, the ones I'm like, oh, you're fucking annoying. They just come off as like really entitled white kids. And it's like, just share the road. You don't own the road. I get you're on a bicycle, but like you gotta have some fucking awareness, which goes back to your thing of like when they're in the cafe. I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense because a lot of them just don't have that fucking awareness. And they think that they own everything, and I fucking don't like them.
But is that because you feel that you don't own anything?
No, it's just because it comes from the act of like sharing the road of somebody who used a skateboard in the city to like get around a commute. Like dealing with them, they're the first ones to run their mouth, and they forget that they're on a bicycle. I can kick my skateboard up. I have a weapon. You're stuck on a bike. We can do this. It's just one of those things that my experiences with a lot of the cyclists in the city, where the bike messengers are cool, they're fun, and they have a reason to be annoying. But like the cyclists on their Sunday strolls, were like, "This is a bike lane to your left." And you're like, "All right, buddy, like relax. I'm not gonna break your stride. It's okay." Yeah, I just never had a good time with them, and when I see them, I'm like, "Oh, you're the worst." I don't know why. It eats at me deep down in my soul with them.
But only in the city? How about in Jersey?
I don't really deal with them in Jersey so much. Like they're in the, when I'm in the car, it's like, it's fine. You can take up space. It's more so sharing the road when I'm also using a bike lane or if I'm also in the street with them. Not in a car.
So, that's interesting because I almost hear like almost two things that's similar to what I was saying, like the awareness. Because for me, the next thought after that, like seeing them in the cafe, I was like, oh, this makes sense. Like in the road, you also, have the same spatial awareness, right? And don't realize that like you're riding side by side and blocking traffic and there's a line of cars behind you. Like that takes a lot of spatial awareness to recognize distance where you are, to have the awareness to check, to be looking constantly on the other. So like that aspect of like the golden rule, if you will, right? Where like treat others how you want to be treated, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that two-way street, quite literally, because it's, you're talking about the rules. This is a bike lane or whatever.
Yeah.
But then it's like also the same idea towards drivers, right? And that is, I'll share with you, that's a struggle for me in terms, not just cyclists, but like people in general. Like when I'm in the supermarket and I see someone with their shopping cart and they stop in the middle and you just bunch of people trying to get around with their shopping carts, and the person just stops their cart in the middle, walks away from it, and it's just like, do you not realize other people are around? Like those are like my personal like struggles, right? Which, with for example, with my wife, there's a lot of points where I get frustrated with that, and we're moving around a space together, and she'll just like walk towards where she's going, even if like it's going to like bump into me, or if I'm walking the same thing as the same like kind of space, she'll just like cross. Like a lot of things like that. It's like, dude, what the hell? You're not aware, right? And obviously, also with my kids, more so with my son, is a challenge that I come across a lot. And I have always struggled with that. But the other day, with that experience, looking at the cyclists, was the first time I kind of like got to look at it in a different way, because I was like, okay, for me, the worrying so much about other people and how I'm affecting other people, like that's also kind of like a burden for me constantly. I'm always stressing about like, and that's also might be part of the reason like I get overstimulated when I'm in public spaces, because I'm trying to intake all this information and calculate, right? It's too much.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if I were able to like not care at all, right, I would be so happy around people, around environments and stuff like that,
Yeah, well, there's a reason why they say ignorance is bliss.
Yeah. So I was looking at it from that perspective of like, I'm judging, right? There's no question about it. I'm judging the way that these other people are pursuing life, not looking in the mirror with like how my life is stressful because of the same thing I'm judging them about. So if I can learn to be a little bit more like them, I can be a little more happy-go-lucky in social environments.
That's funny you say that, because I realized like when I finally got out of news, I stopped watching news. And I feel like I've been significantly happier not knowing what's happening in the world.
That is so true, man.
I've been so much happier to, I don't have to read about or write about a fucking murder every fucking day, or, some wild thing. And it's made my mental health significantly better. So I do agree where, sometimes ignorance is bliss. Now, do I think should you know about current events? Sure. But in my daily life right now, current events aren't exactly affecting my life until it does.
That's how I feel about TikTok.
Yeah, I think I'm just old. I just go on being old, where I'm like, I refuse to do the TikTok thing.
What do you mean by that, Mo?
So like I go through these like phases where I go through TikTok and I entertain, let's say, like these conspiracy theories or like projections of what's coming our way. And then I end up going down a rabbit hole of like watching all these different things. And I'm like, yo, this fucking makes sense. and then I fucking psych myself out and become an anxious wreck. And I'm like, fuck, man, the world's ending. And I mean, that's what it feels like to me. And so then, you know, that's just like people talking, and I just psych myself out. And I'm just like, I shouldn't go on TikTok. This is pointless. If I'm going to die, I'd rather just not know about it.
That's how I look at it. It goes back to the story I told you guys when I get freaked out in a car, where it's like my coping mechanism is just to fall asleep. If we crash, I don't know, unless I wake up and my leg's off. You know, like. But until then, like, well, I'll deal with that when we get there.
So, all of this, like, the reason why I brought it up is like the idea of awareness, right? Awareness is a strong tool to create change, but also in the same sense, it's a stressful tool.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, just to give the audience information about, like, for us, awareness is where, you know, VidaProject, we focus on change, we focus on transformation, and it starts from awareness, and then the next step is vulnerability. But with what we're talking about, it's like recognizing that if your awareness is too highly tuned, it also causes issues. Causes, you know, you to be taking in so much information to the point that you cannot cope with it, and you end up just drawing conclusions that you're so convinced about because of the amount of information that you're trying to process. You're like, no, I have to be right. Look at all the factors that I'm taking into account.
I mean, that that does make sense, because like if you think about it, when you hear about like these geniuses and whatnot, a lot of them suffer from like heavy depression because of the way that they see the world, and everything's kind of like an absolute sometimes with them, where it's like if they're not right, it goes crazy. What is that movie, A Beautiful Mind, where the mathematician, who's one of the greatest mathematicians of all time, he pretty much goes insane and he has like schizophrenia or something like that. I'm probably making that part up, but it's a burden. It's a gift and a curse. But like, you know, if I see one more stupid person be happy, I'm gonna stop reading books. Like, done with them. Not even gonna listen to books. Like, that's it. Done.
Well, I wonder if that comes with the idea if the person who's intelligent believes that the world should be a certain way, right? So there's an expectation that's kind of hidden within there. It's like, you have to be this way. You have to have this awareness, and you should know around the people around. You should know what's around you, and you should share the road, and you should, like, it's based on these values that exist within us, which makes me believe that there's an expectation that's being placed on these people that don't have the awareness. So then it's like an egocentric kind of perception that you have because you believe everybody should be the way that you are.
Yeah, that makes sense. But then I guess it comes into like, how do you deal with it then? Like, what's
understanding that you're wrong too.
Oh, of course. No, of course.
That you're wrong for your expectation.
Yeah.
Like, it's a social construct. Who the fuck said that we have to share the road? Who the fuck said that I should be in the bike lane? Like, it's all fucking bullshit.
Yeah. You don't want to get hit by a car. So that's the reasoning.
It's logic. Like, there's physics to it. There's laws. But at the end, you don't have to.
Yeah. So, but I mean, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to wipe your ass, but it would be nice if you did.
But with the egocentric concept, like, that's also where like I was thinking, it's like, it's this, because, for example, let's go back to the subject of cyclists, right? For most of my life, I have cycled a lot, but not like for exercise, not the spandex.
I call that riding a bike. You rode a bike.
I use it for transportation, and it's like I used to do a lot of miles a day and all that stuff. But I also approached the streets the same way like I did, for example, when I used to rollerblade, which is like, you know, you feel very vulnerable on the streets. And, you know, growing up, when I used to rollerblade around New York City, I was tiny and I used to be on the streets. I'm talking about like 7 years old. Like, you're so vulnerable there were no bike lanes. There weren't anything like that. So you have to be hyper aware, right? So the way I approached cycling was the same way, where it's like I didn't even use bike lanes because I'm like, they're more dangerous. I'd rather be on the road and I'm able to adjust, bob and weave and all this stuff. And it's like this hyper defensive form of riding my bike.
Yeah.
And you know, with that ego idea, it's like, yeah, this is the right way to stay safe, to keep everyone else safe on the bike. And when I see this kind of linear fashion of bike lane on the right side and whole gang of people cycling, that judgment comes as like, no, that's a very vulnerable way. But it comes from what I perceive as the problem. Well, if we like for a moment shift, it's like, no, if the world had rules and we followed the rules, the rules would execute the safety that we're searching for, and we wouldn't have to kind of paint on our outside the lines to find this pathway. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, please subscribe, like below, comment, let us know your thoughts, and continue to enjoy.
I have a question for you. When you're talking about like not liking to be in the bicycle lane, when you're riding your bike, do you like riding with traffic? Do you like riding against traffic?
With traffic.
With traffic? See, I always liked skating against traffic because I like being able to see what was in front of me. Mm-hmm. Instead of trusting that they're not going to hit me from behind.
I used to do that early on in cycling. Until I was going against traffic and a car came out of a driveway making a left towards me. And it popped out so quickly coming at me that I realized the amount of time was decreased in terms of me being able to do something, because I'm not just dealing with my speed. Now I'm also dealing with additional to their speed coming at me, that it was like, this is not the right way. And from that moment on, I shifted and went to the other side.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I think all of this is just the idea of what's probable. Like the like when you think about safety, and I see where you're coming from, Rance. It's like if you're in the road with the cars, then you're forcing drivers to actually see you and become aware at this point. So now you're forcing awareness upon everybody else, which then creates a higher probability that someone sees you, which then creates, theoretically, saying, yeah, they probably won't want to hit me, right? Because it would be a bad scene, right? As opposed to like staying in the lane where your awareness and your defenses are now down because you have the expectation that being in a bike lane means you're safe. Yeah. Right. And that's the same thing with like going against traffic. Like you feel that if you're going against traffic, you're able to see what's coming at you. Therefore, you have a higher probability of making a better decision in a shorter period of time. But there's like other variables, like in those moments when we have awareness, but there's variables that we don't know of. Yeah. And it's just all it is a probability. And when we think we're right, it's because we think we're right. And everybody else is wrong. Yeah. And that's why we feel unhappy. And
you're right until you're wrong, essentially. Until your theory is proven wrong, until you're hit by that car, until you're scared shitless when that car backs out and you don't see it.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, then everything changes.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying. Like you have all this data that you're going by, but it's biased data. It's data all from one side only. Because I've been hit by cars a couple of times.
Same.
You know. And you know, it's like that's also when you're thinking where you're in such your high horse of like, oh, I'm doing all this and things still happen. It's like you either get the option to face the reaction of that of there's nothing I could have done. This was inevitable, which is very victimhood based, or is there an opportunity for me to improve here? Which then means that you have to be vulnerable with your entitlement of how right you are, and put that back to the kind of cutting block, if you will, and then go back into it. But I think, like, you know, to bring this like full circle in the sense of like the awareness, as Moses was talking, I thought about this where it's like you become aware, but only in one lane. You become aware of your perception only, and you stop becoming aware of the other possibilities.
Yeah.
So when you do that, that's when you slip into that righteousness, into that I'm right, they're wrong idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then because of that, that's where you feed your ego to then be in this place of like, oh, if they were more like me, they would be better. There would be better human beings. There'd be better cyclists. There'll be better everything. But in reality, what's really happening is that your awareness has dropped out of the realm of all the other possibilities of how wrong you can be. Did that make sense?
From what I understood, it was just your awareness shrank down, so you lost empathy. So therefore, you can't understand why other people would make a decision the way they would think, or why they would do the things they do. Like I thought about that too. I was like, so what happens if they were in the restaurant? They were aware. They just didn't give a fuck. They didn't care, and they were just like, I don't want to move, because if I move, then I'm not going to be able to pay my bill. Like, so I'm not going to move. And I'm going to stay here because people are the way that people are. Like the same, they just have the same level of awareness, but they just make a decision from a different perspective. They know that you're there. They're like, from their experiences, like we don't know.
I think that goes into that entitlement aspect though, that Jay was talking about, right? Where that's another aspect of like the judgment comes in.
Yeah, but all Americans are entitled.
I think everybody's entitled.
I think everybody in this fucking country is entitled. Let's go to fucking Africa. Let's go to Middle East. Let's go to Gaza. Like, let's see them. They're not entitled.
Yeah.
They're fucking surviving. Like,
no, they are entitled. How dare you stop bombing me? Like, that's if we talk about peak entitlement, guys. Sorry, that group did something. Can you stop?
What I was gonna say about the entitlement is like
that was a joke, by the way, guys. Sorry, for the joke.
What I was gonna say about the entitlement is that it's just a different name for the same coin, right? Because it's the same entitlement that I have of my awareness. Like I'm entitled, you know, to be a superior human because of my level of awareness.
Yeah, that's why like Lucius, Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius had a slave that would just follow him around and say, "You're just a man. You're just a man. You're just a man." Just whisper in his ear every fucking day, "You're just a man." Even though he was an emperor and probably one of the most successful emperors that of that time frame, he just knew. And if you read his journals, it's called Meditations. They talk about it. This guy just always knew that there's a possibility that he's wrong and that he's just another human being who's just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That just has this unique perspective, and he's able to make some decisions.
You mean to tell me slaughtering thousands of people for your personal gain?
Well, Marcus Aurelius wasn't the person that did that.
But you know, that's what you just brought up. He had a slave that would say this in his ear, because I think that's the key factor there. It's not about knowing, it's about remembering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because our egos are always looking for the opportunity to feel important, to feel superior in a way or the other. And we need to have a systemic practice of reminding ourselves that is our ego that wants to be fed that.
Yeah.
So the only way to stay truly aware is to stay vulnerable to the realities of what we are.
I think that's why I spar so much. I think that's when you say it like that, I think that's literally why I spar all the time. I could just hit a heavy bag and be like, I'm the best.
Which is then you go into the keyboard warriors, right? Where they watch a boxing match or a MMA match and they're like, well, he should have done this and this. Because it's so easy to sit on that chair and imagine yourself. Imagine yourself being having this level of reaction and awareness, and it's like, that's easy. You can draw that up in your mind with no outside pressure. But the reality is the outside pressure is what teaches us.
Yeah.
That force of that punch, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face. That is the truest statement, because it takes us outside of our plan. It takes us outside of our brain and of our imagination of our perfection. And it knocks us the fuck down.
It's funny. Like this morning, I woke up not in a bad mood, but I was like, meh, and I went to the gym, and I was helping this guy, older gentleman, get ready for Golden Gloves. It's his first Golden Gloves. And sometimes when I'm sparring, I get into the mindset like if they're throwing heat, I start laughing to get them a little bit annoyed when they're throwing at me. And I'm like, come on, don't stop, keep going. You want to be tough? And I start talking shit. And I don't know what it is, but sometimes like taking that abuse and like, I'm blocking a lot of it, but I'm taking damage. I'm getting hit in the stomach, and I start laughing and I egg them on. I don't know. It's like a reset for me sometimes. Like it's like it beats me into like a better mood. I'm just human. It's just fine. I can take this beating. We're gonna keep going. But I'm always in a better mood afterwards when I take that brain damage. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but that made me think about that just now, because that was literally the first sparring session this morning. That's what it was pretty much like.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because that's what I used to always share. It's like I used to enjoy getting hit more than hitting, in martial arts, in all types of martial arts. Like every time I got knocked out, every time that I got, kicked in the face, all of that was always like, there is this like dopamine induced coma you go into by that, which is like, I don't know if it's like knocking out your fucking ego, and remembering that you're just a man and being okay with that.
There's something. It's drug like. It's a weird high that I started experiencing when it comes to that aspect of finding yourself a little bit more, where it's just like, and I keep telling myself I'm better than this guy. I know I'm better than this guy. I know I'm better than this guy. But it depends on the day. That's what a fight is, right? It depends on the skill set you're bringing that day. And anybody can be better than you on any given day, or anybody can get the best of you on any given day. So it was so much fun, and it's not a healthy fun either at the end of the day. When I think about it, it's not a good long term thing to do.
But you can argue the opposite of that too. You can argue that taking those hits, right, and coming out of it alive just boost your ego, because it's just like I'm a man. I'm the man.
Yeah.
Right? You can look at it from that perspective as well.
Yeah.
So even when you guys are talking about it, I'm like, yeah, I could see that perspective, but it can also be like, what do you call it? Like an illusion. Your brain paint an illusion of you telling yourself that, but in reality, it's just like you're just boosting your ego in that kind of perspective. So I think it's hard to say. I don't think you ever know, unless, and even from like when you lose and you're broken down and you think the world's going to shit, even that victim kind of perspective is an egocentric one, because you believe that something should be the way it is, and it's not the way that you believed it to be.
Well, I was thinking about something similar to that as Jay was talking, but it's more so from the perspective of, because I was thinking about it, like, if you're in any type of martial arts, in this case boxing, and someone is just wiping the floor with you that you don't even know, it's like, where did that come from? Where are they? Where are they? In front of me, behind me? Like, when that becomes, that's when your ego gets knocked the fuck down, and it doesn't feel good, right? So it's the idea of that sweet spot, right, where you're in that zone where it's above that discomfort, but it's not at that high stress beyond your capacity zone. It's in that sweet spot. So whether you're in the bottom of that sweet spot where it's like, the ego driven, or it's you're closer to the top of it where it's pushing down your ego in that sense, there is a bit of both. There is a bit of like that ego boost, but in line with that reality checking.
Yeah.
And the belief in
for
yourself.
This one, it was
improve.
more of an ego check because I went into it going, I'm better than this guy. I'm gonna let him try to do his thing. I want to see what he has. And then it like in the third round, I was like, I can't do that anymore. I have to treat this like he's better than me. And I can't just stand there and be like, ha ha ha, ha ha ha, you're hitting me, ha ha ha, good shot. Then I had to like, now it's a competition. And it made it made me respect him. It made me like have a newfound appreciation for the guy. And it made me be like, you gotta knock that shit off where just because you think that you're more skilled than somebody, that they can't fuck you up. Because they can. And he just did. Have you started training for your triathlon yet?
Yeah.
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 Are you still like in the getting yourself like your shoulder and all that stuff there, or
Yeah.
like you're starting to like swim now?
No, so started training with a trainer. I'm doing that once a week, and then I go to the gym. I've been running.
Yeah.
And then the physical therapy.
Nice.
Stuff.
For the triathlon, how long is the run?
13 miles.
And how long is the swim?
1 point, I think it was like 1.8, almost 2 miles.
Okay.
Almost 2. And then the bike ride is like 50 or something.
Wow.
56 or some shit like that.
What's the longest you've ever ridden?
A bike?
Yeah. Without assistance, without like the electric bike. Do you know?
I don't even know.
You should link up with? You should hit up Marky. Marky rides a bike a lot.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he does like 25 miles a day sometimes.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, he's super into bike riding. Yeah,
the biking and the swimming is going to be the most of the learning curve.
Yeah.
Running 13 miles, I just gotta keep doing what I
yourself to get there.
Condition myself to that point. But the biking and the swimming more so, I feel.
Yeah. Now you swim in the ocean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys, I think when is it?
I'm shooting for October.
October, okay. Yeah. This summer you should try to make it to the beach a lot to swim, to get that feeling. As I had a guy from the gym do, I don't know if it was a triathlon, but he did a race where you did all that stuff, and like he was doing a lot of pool stuff, and then he finally went to the ocean. Like, oh, it's so different.
It is different.
Yeah. You got something. You got current pulling you. You're going different ways. It's a lot more tiring. I'm excited for you though. I think this is really cool.
I'm fucking terrified of that shit.
Good, as you should be.
I think about it, my heart just drops to like my asshole.
As it should.
So I was laughing because you said go to the ocean to practice. Mo was like, he tried to block it out, but I saw the eyebrows go up.
Yep. And that's all what this is, right? Isn't that this whole thing that you guys preach is facing your fears head on and navigating them, and don't be a bitch.
Oh no, I think you're allowed to be a bitch. You just gotta do it.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
When I say don't be a bitch, is don't be a bitch and not do it. You gotta do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can bitch about it. You bitch while you do it.
That's what makes courage, right? You gotta have to have fear in order to have courage.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, go ahead. Let's close out this one.
Yeah. So what did we learn today, gentlemen?
Moses, you did such a great job last time.
Okay, what did we learn today? That awareness is a tool that has a double-edged sword, and it could bring you into a perspective where you think you're always right, because you believe people should have something or should believe something just the way you do. But it's also a tool that can bring tremendous growth in your life. So then at the end of the day, the way to deal with that is to always remember that you're just a fucking human being and that you're not right and that people are just people. And sometimes you just got to do what you got to do to grow. That's it.
All right. And on that note, don't forget to check us out on what is it? Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, YouTube, VidaProject.com, and any other place that you could find a podcast. We love you guys. Can't wait to see Mo in the ocean. Oh man, I can't wait. I'm bringing popcorn.
Every time you say ocean, his eyes just really
I
swell up.
love it. Because you know what it is? Because what I love about Mo, and I'll probably cut this out because I don't need to inflate his ego, is to watch his growth of being able to conquer a lot of his fears and see him come out a bigger and better person for it. Makes me so happy. So I'm so excited to watch him conquer this because I've always thought of him as a little fucking baby when it came to the water. So I'm ecstatic because I know that he's gonna fucking kill it. And if not, then I'll bring my little Speedo and I'll fucking save him in the water. And that's it. So on that note, guys, peace, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.